This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, this is Steve Rybrook from Forvis. This video covers the advanced find and personal view feature within the CRM that you're using. As you know, I'm Steve Rybrook with Forvis. I added our support team communication here in case you have questions or concerns. You can always reach out to our support desk and they would be glad to help you. So as far as advanced find and personal view goes, I'm going to cover a quick agenda here, and then I want to spend most of the time right in CRM showing this to you. But I do want to point out a couple things. So number one on here, prerequisites. Really, in order to use this feature, you really need to have a pretty good idea of what data is available in the system, because that's what this feature is all about. It's probing into the data to let you get answers that maybe you can't get from an existing view or an existing report. And so you might want to use this advanced find feature. You can also use this feature to make your own views. So hopefully by now you're comfortable with what views are within CRM. And you might use, let's say, a view that's right in the system called My Open Opportunities. Maybe you don't like that view. Maybe you don't like the way the columns are listed. Maybe you don't like the way it's sequenced. Maybe you want to change the filter a little bit. You can do that using advanced find for like a one-time deal, or you can save that configuration, if you will, and then it will show up as a different view in CRM. So you can create your own views, but it's important to have that knowledge. So what do you need to actually use this advanced find feature? Well, you really need to know what file you're going after. Sometimes people call it a table. In the olden days, they called it an entity. So are you looking at accounts? Are you looking at order history? Do you want to probe into contacts? Then you need to think about what filters you want to apply. So filters are going to narrow down the data. So let's say your system has, 10,000 accounts. You might not want a list of all 10,000. Well, you can define the rules, the filters to narrow down the data. And then finally, you can pick which data, which columns you want to appear on the view. And then I mentioned this earlier, you can do this as a kind of a one-time thing, or you can save all your work and then give it a name, and you'll have that view out there, and until you delete it. What's also kind of cool is if you do end up saving a view or creating a view, you can share it with other people. So maybe in a sales organization, if there's 10 salespeople who want the same view, it's not like each person has to make it. In many organizations, I see a couple people who get really good at making views, and then they can make a view and share it with the sales team. There are a few other cool features that are somewhat new with the way they've changed it, because this got changed. I think Microsoft rolled out a change in October of 2022, and it changed the way this whole advanced find feature works. That's why I'm doing a new video here. So you have a little bit more control over how you sort your list of views. There's an easy way to set a view as your default. You can actually go in, and if you end up making like lots of views, especially if you share them with others but you don't use them yourself, there's a way for you to hide views. So the views don't go away, they're still there, but they're just hidden. So when you go to your list of views, you don't have to scroll through a long list. And you can tell which ones are personal views because they have a little person icon next to them. And then there's also an easy way for you to delete a view. So we're gonna flip over to CRM and we're gonna try this. I'll use a fairly simple example because there's a lot to cover with this. And obviously you can make these as crazy as you want. So I'm just gonna flip over to CRM, and right now I'm in opportunities. I'm in the sales area in opportunities. As you can see, I'm going to spend a little bit more time in accounts. So I'm just over on the left-hand side. I'm flipping over to accounts. And for those of you who didn't know, I'm looking at a view called active accounts. And I can click this little arrow and it'll give me a list of all my accounts. I'm sorry, all my views. So, and you can see here are some of my personal views I've made. but I want to make a new view. So I'm going to show you one way to do this. And by the time we get done doing this, you might find a different way to do it where a lot of times with systems like this, you can do things a number of different ways. So I'll show you one way, I'll kind of show you another way, and then you can just decide, right, which way works best for you. So for those of you who are used to the old way, there used to be a funnel right up here in this dark, I'll call it like the navigation bar for lack of a better word. But there used to be a funnel in here, and if you hovered over it, it said, click here to go to Advanced Find. And it really took you almost out of CRM into a whole different look and feel world. But those of you who got good at that, you got real used to it, no big deal. This new way is so different. For those of you who are used to the old way, it's going to be a little frustrating, but it was very frustrating for me. But give it about 30 to 60 minutes, and I think you'll fall in love with it. It's going to be much better for you in the long run, I hope. Now, everybody has a different definition of user-friendly, but my observations are I'm starting to like the new way better than the old way, and I just had to start playing with it. So that's the good news. All right, so most of you know about global search. It's this big box right up here, in the middle on this bar up on top. If I click that, guess what's down on the bottom? What you might consider Advanced Find, or that funnel that used to appear over here. So I'm just going to go to this right here. So what is one of the questions it asks me? It's like, select a table. We talked about that earlier. You need to know which table or which file you're going after. So it took a little bit, but it went out and looked at all the different tables that I have access to. And there's a ton of them in the system. Now, the good news is most of you probably use 2 or 3 or 4 of these tables, accounts, order history, maybe opportunities. So I'm just going to use accounts. So when I click on accounts and I go down here and hit continue, what happens is it kind of closes this window and takes me over to this account view, which I was earlier, but it opens up a window, kind of blocks half of the screen here, and it's just starting out with, what filters do you want to apply? So remember, I picked accounts, so I know I'm going after accounts. And in my little scenario here, I'm just going to make one up. One of the things, let's say, that our organization cares about is the industry, the value of industry in CRM. And we've noticed that a lot of accounts are somehow being coded to other. So if we maintain industry in CRM, I at least want it, whether I do it in CRM or I do it in my accounting system, I want to see which customers are still coded as other, because we just want to assign them to a specific industry, not other. And I really want to focus on customers who are coded as other, who've been buying from me, let's say, in the last 12 months. So then, those are the ones I really should know what industry they're in if they're buying from me. So I'm just going to make some rules, some filters. So it's already filtering on status equals active. So it did that because my default view is active accounts. And I like that rule, so I'm just going to leave that there. If I didn't like a rule, I can just hover over these 3 dots and I can get rid of a rule. I'm just going to add a rule, and the rule is going to look just like this with these 3 columns. So first I'm going to say I want to add a row, and then I have to pick which field. Well, we talked about industry. So when I click that, it gives me a list of all of the fields that are in the accounts, file, which there's a lot of them. We don't use all of these, obviously. So again, this is where you have to know your data. So I want those where industry equals, and I'm going to hit this little lookup down here and look for, what did I say? Other is a problem for us. I could keep picking them if I wanted to do lots of them. I could say equals other or something else, but I'll just stick with other. And then the other thing I care about is if if the customer's ordered, let's say in the last 12 months. So another data point that I'm aware of is in the account file, we keep track of the last order date. I'm just going to scroll down to the L's and find last order date. And I'm going to make this a very dynamic rule. So rather than saying like on or after like a certain day, I'm going to say in the last X months and put in 12. So now if I look at this 3 months from now, right, it's only going to look back 12 months to say, hey, show me everybody who's coded as other and has ordered in the last 12 months. So now I can hit apply and you'll see what happens. It narrowed down my list of accounts right in front of me to just those 55 that ordered in the last 12 months and have an industry of other. So I'm able to go through here and do this. And some other things I can do now that I'm here, if I change my mind on my filters, I could edit filters. And it's going to bring me right back to that screen. I'm just going to hit apply. But the other thing I talked about is you can change the columns. So if I don't like these columns, I don't like the order they're in or whatever, I can just go to edit columns and it gives me a list of the columns kind of going down, but it just matches these going across. And let's say that I want the owner to be the first column. So I can click this little 3 dots and I can like move it up or move that column down, or I can just drag it. So I just clicked and dragged. So I can click my mouse, drag it and put it anywhere I want. So if you'd rather click and drag, fine. If you'd rather hit this little button and move down, I mean, go for it. And you also see I can get rid of a column. So I really do want this owner column, but maybe I don't need start date. Maybe I just don't care about that. So I can just go here and I can say remove. So pretty easy. If I want to add a column, maybe we don't use this, but maybe something that's important to me is like, I'll just make something up. Let's say credit rating. So I can add a column. So I'll go and find credit rating. Here's credit rating. So I added that, stuck it on the bottom. I can slide that up. If that was real important to me, I'll put it right here. Right, I can hit apply. And now it has the owner in the front, it has the credit rating here, it has their, all the other columns just the way I had them before. All right, so now we just love this view. So maybe you just got the answer you wanted and you're all done. Okay, great. Maybe you export this to Excel, whatever, and you're done. You can just move on. It's all good. But if all of this work you wanna use this later, you can hit. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, but you'll get used to this. So you did all this work. Now you want to save it. Where's the save button? Well, if you click your list of views, you're going to be doing that quite often here. You click your list of views, the system knows what you've been doing here. So down on the bottom, it gives you the option to save all your work as a new view. So I'm going to do that. And then it gives you a chance to give it a name and a description if you care. So I like to be really clear with what my view is. So I'm going to say active accounts with industry of other and ordered in last 12 months. Kind of long, but it sure does tell me exactly what I'm looking at. And I can hit save. And now it's going through and it's going to save that view. So I could leave accounts. I could go, let's say, over to opportunities. I could come back to accounts. And instead of having to start over by going up here to this global search and whatever, I can just click my drop down of views. And I should have a view that says, where did it go? Oh, you know what? Maybe I have to refresh. Just going to do a quick refresh. Let's see if it showed up. So there's my default view. Okay, here it is. active accounts with industry of other and ordered in last 12 months. So if I click that view, which is now in the system, that definition, okay, like an order, a problem error has occurred. Let's refresh one more time. Maybe it's still saving it. Give it one more shot here. Go to just one other view first, just to make sure they're all working. Yep, so this one's good. This is an old view. How about this new view? What's wrong with you? I'm gonna pause this for a minute and try to figure it out.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I'm back. I believe it was just a timing thing because I haven't done anything, but I just jumped over, refreshed my browser, went back to accounts and found that view, and it loaded right up. So again, I think it was a timing thing. So here's that view of 55 accounts. So now I could, whether I maintain industry here in CRM or I have to do it in my accounting system, right? I could find out what industries these companies actually belong to and get that corrected. And then hopefully over time, this list will get smaller and smaller. So that's one way, I guess, to create a view. So if you recall, I went up here, I went down here, and then I just kind of followed basically the wizard, if you will, on how to get started. So now we want to talk about how to share a view. So here's another thing that I think you're going to like, and I'm going to show you a lot of buttons here in a minute. But remember I said you're going to use this little drop down for your list of views quite often, because if you do that, when you're looking at just a normal view, you haven't started with this advanced find search, you're just in CRM looking at your list of views. On the bottom, there's now an option to manage and share your views. So these are some of the cool things that you can do here now. So you have a little bit control over how you want to sort your views. You have three options. You can have your views sorted by your personal views first, followed by the system views, and then they're sorted A to Z. You can have the systems view sorted, or you can sort it first and then your personal ones sorted A to Z, or you can just intermingle them all sorted A to Z. I just kind of like my personal views up on top, so I like that. The other thing you can do is, let's say I don't really use this view anymore, but maybe I shared it with people and other people might use it, or even if I don't use it now, I might want to use it in the future, but I'm so tired of it showing up on the list when I click this little drop down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over here to the three dots and say hide that view. And now the next time after I save this or apply this, when I go to get my list of views, it won't show up here, but it will always be here. So what other cool options are on these three dots? Here's a way where I could share it. I'll show you that in a minute. Edit the information seems like really powerful, but that's all that does is let you change the name and the description if you want. So nothing super crazy there. Here's where I could delete a view. Probably won't really deactivate a view or assign that view to somebody else, but you might want to share it with someone else. So here's what a lot of you are kind of used to now. I want to share the view. Let's say I want to share it with Kevin. So I'll just look up Kevin, my list of users. I select Kevin over here. So I selected him and it dragged him here, and I could get this whole list here. So I select them, and then I say, what kind of permissions do I want to give Kevin? Well, I want him to be able to use the view, but I really don't want him to make changes or delete the view or reassign the view to somebody else or share the view with anybody else. So typically most folks, when they're going to share a view, they get who they want to share it with, and then they give them read permission. And if I hit share, the next time Kevin goes into CRM, he's gonna have that view because I just shared it with him. So that's how you can share, and then plus all them other cool features behind the three dots. So the other thing that was, here it says your changes have been saved. So I'm just gonna close out of this, and I can hit apply here to get out of this. So the other thing that I found that was kind of interesting is, remember how we started, how I showed you, hey, if you want to make a view, you go right here and you search for rows in a table, and then you kind of follow the wizard that we went through. But what you can do is you can just start, if you have a view that's close, like let's say this active accounts, which is actually kind of where I started originally. If I like this view, look at these options that exist for me already. Edit columns, edit filters. I can even edit filters using the headers if I want to. So I could go here and I could make a rule. I could change the sort. This would be a great way to change the sort of a view. And when you get all done, so let's just do that. Let's make a rule. I'll just say I just want to see all my accounts in Wisconsin. And I could go through and show you lots of different things, right? I could do more filters and more sorting, what have you, but I did most of that already. So watch what I can do now. If I made these changes and I hit this drop down again to get to my list of views, it gives me the option to save this as a new view. So in reality, I don't even know how often I'm going to use this way to get started, unless I just don't have access to the table or the file, anywhere. Then I might have to start from scratch there. But in most cases, if I'm going to make a view over accounts, I'm just going to go to accounts and start adding columns, removing columns, changing the sort, adding filters, and then I'm just going to hit this and I'm just going to save it. And then just to remember, then, if you want to manage all your views, you just go right here. So it's pretty intuitive once you've done it a while, but it's drastically different than the old way. So with that in mind, I think you have enough information to really enjoy Advanced Find. Hopefully though, many of the views, many of our reports, many of our dashboards will give you the answers you need. But if they don't, you have this new way of creating your own views or probing the data with these edit columns, edit filters using Advanced Find. So hopefully this was helpful. Thanks so much for listening and have yourself a great day.